Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the largest animal walking the earth today. The elephant, unstoppable, untouchable, a living fortress of muscle and bone. No predator dares challenge a fully grown one. Now picture a bird. Small, fragile, prey. That's what we think we know. But 200,000 years ago, off the coast of what is now Italy, the rules were different. Completely different. Because on those islands, the birds were bigger than the elephants. To understand how this happened, we need to go back further, much further, to a genus of elephants so massive, so dominant, they make today's African elephant look modest. Paleoloxodon, 2 species, both record breakers. The first, Paleoloxodon antiquus, the straight-tusked elephant, a titan that dominated Europe during the Pleistocene, stopping across the continent unchallenged. The second, Paleoloxodon pneumaticus, the largest elephant to ever live. These were the kings of their world. Nothing came close. But then, the water rose. Around 500,000 years ago, sea levels dropped and land bridges appeared, thin corridors of earth stretching toward the islands of Sicily and Malta. A colony of these colossal elephants crossed over, and then the water rose again. They were trapped, stranded on islands with shrinking resources and, crucially, no predators. What happened next defies everything we think we know about evolution. They shrank. Generation after generation, smaller and smaller, in a process called insular dwarfism, the island's quiet revenge on giants. Until finally, something extraordinary emerged. Paleoloxodon falconeri, the smallest elephant to ever exist. Males stood just 1 meter tall at the shoulder. Females, even shorter. They weighed as little as 150 kilograms. That's lighter than some racehorses. Descendants of the largest elephants in history, reduced to the size of a large dog. But they weren't alone on these islands. While the elephants were shrinking, something else was happening. Something going in the opposite direction. Without predators, certain animals had no reason to stay small. Enormous owls stalked the ground. Giant tortoises roamed the hills. Massive cranes waded through the shallows. And then there was the swan, Cygnus falconeri. 7 feet long, a wingspan stretching nearly 10 feet across, the largest swan to ever exist, towering over the tiny elephants it shared the land with. A bird, larger than an elephant. Let that sink in. Picture the scene. A warm Mediterranean island. Lush vegetation. Crystal water glittering at the edges. A tiny elephant, no taller than your waist, grazes peacefully near the shoreline. And above it, casting a shadow, a swan the size of a man stretches its wings. For thousands of years, these two creatures shared this impossible paradise. No lions, no wolves, no threats. Just the giant swan and the miniature elephant, coexisting in a world that should not have existed. But paradise never lasts. Around 200,000 years ago, the water level shifted again, and this time, what crossed over wasn't another harmless herbivore. Lions, cave hyenas, wolves. The predators that these animals had never encountered, had never evolved to fear, arrived without warning. Alongside them came competition, red deer, bison, hippopotamus, larger animals crowding out the food supply. The tiny elephants had no defense. The giant swans had nowhere to run. The paradise that had shaped them became their trap. Tectonic activity shook the islands. Resources collapsed. The environment they had spent hundreds of thousands of years adapting to turned against them. And one by one, they vanished. Sicily and Malta moved on. New species filled the void. Another dwarf elephant, a miniature hippopotamus. Evolution's endless experiment, continuing without pause. But somewhere in the fossil record, frozen in stone, a tiny elephant stands beside a bird larger than itself. A reminder that the rules we think govern nature are just that, rules. And nature has always loved breaking them. This was their island, their world, their story.